Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, this is probably our most loaded show since the Super Bowl. We've got an absolutely loaded episode of Carving Up Live on tap for you guys tonight. Gonna start with Maxx Crosby being traded to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm here to tell you, the Raiders won that trade, and it has almost nothing to do with Maxx Crosby. Get to that. Also touch on Travis Kelce back with the Chiefs. They signed Kenneth Walker, the Super Bowl MVP. Why that is fantastic news for Patrick Mahomes and great business by the Kansas City Chiefs. Talk about that. Also get into a myriad of free agent moves. The Dolphins released Tua. The Falcons signed him to be Michael Penix Jr.'s backup. The Cowboys, I gotta say, Dallas made some pretty good moves in the last few months or so. Get into that. Also touch on Jayson Tatum coming back from injury. Looked pretty solid in his return. Get to that, as well as, again, a recap of all the biggest free agent news around the NFL. Deals are dropping like flies right now. We'll probably have some breaking news during Carving Up. At the end of today's show, like we'll be doing every Monday, a reaction to Episode 6 of FX's Love Story. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Absolutely fantastic stuff. React to that at the end of today's show. So Carving Up, as you can tell, is just loaded on a Monday. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. I'm so hyped to be here. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, and on X. I am Bryson Carver. First of all, thanks everybody for stopping by. You heard me say in the promo, you're going to be talking about a bunch of free agent stuff. Literally, as the intro is playing, boom, Nakobe Dean to the Vegas Raiders. Like, we are getting, and we'll get throughout the show, which will probably be a good... We're going 60 to 90 minutes easily with some of the free agent deals that could drop. Trey Hendrickson's still a free agent. Some quarterbacks out there, Geno Smith, Kyler Murray. Although I think some of those, the case of like Kyler Murray and like Tua today, they can't officially sign with their new teams until post Wednesday. But very excited getting all that stuff. And also, I had to rep my beloved ETSU Buccaneers. Folks, we are playing in the Men's Southern Conference Championship game tonight. If we win, we're going to March Madness for the first time in almost a decade. We were going to March Madness in 2020, but of course, you remember what happened in COVID. But listen, I appreciate everybody for stopping by. I hope that daylight savings was not as hard on you guys as it was on me. I don't know what it is. Like, just this year, for some odd reason, it usually does, but it kind of just threw me for a loop when I woke up on Sunday. Like, whoa, it's supposed to be this time, but it's this time. But regardless, very excited that you guys would take some time out of your day to watch the show. So let's get into business. But first, on a free agent Monday, let's start with the trade. Maxx Crosby traded from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Baltimore Ravens for 2 first-round picks from Baltimore to Vegas. So, listen, Maxx Crosby in and of himself is an unbelievable football player. We can show you the numbers. They speak for themselves. He's 6th in sacks since 2019, which, by the way, that's the first year, the year he was drafted, 2019. 7th in sacks since 2020. 8th in sacks since 2021. 6th in sacks since 2022. He's 10th in sacks since 2023. First in tackles by a defensive end since 2019, which I found notable. So he can, he's good against the run. 2-time All-Pro and a 5-time Pro Bowl player. He's indisputably, I think, one of the 5 best pass rushers in the game. You got to consider Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons and, guys like that. Like, he's absolutely in that class. And I'm here to tell you today, the Raiders won the trade. And it, as I said in the intro to today's show, has nothing to do with, is Maxx Crosby good or not? Maxx Crosby's resume is what it is. We showed you his numbers playing for a bad team, playing for a team, by the way, in which he's trailing most of the time. That's why Myles Garrett is just a freak. The fact that he was able to put up the numbers he did with the Browns being the drubs of the NFL for the course of their history is remarkable. Maxx Crosby kind of doing something not as impressive, but somewhat similar. So Maxx Crosby's great. But if you're Baltimore, and sure, you can call me a biased Steelers fan that's like, you're just trying to cope with the Ravens getting one of the 5 best players at his position. Did Baltimore get better today? Because if I've been following free agency news today, Isaiah Likely, excellent tight end, gone. He's going to the Giants. Draymond Jones, who was your best pass rusher a year ago, gone. He's going to the New England Patriots. How about even your center, one of the best centers in the league, Tyler Linderbaum, gone. He's also going to Vegas. It's basically a swap between Linderbaum and Maxx Crosby in a certain way. Meanwhile, if you're Vegas, and I've talked about this offseason, I am growing more and more optimistic about the Raiders' future. Again, I know the AFC West is a brutal division, especially to build anything close to a contender in when you're in the state that Vegas is in. But you got Fernando Mendoza coming. You now have 4 first-round picks over the course of the next 2 drafts. I think you have a really smart coach in Kubiak coming in the building. You've got, obviously, Brock Bowers. You've got Linderbaum coming to the building. They've been able to make some free agent moves. They just signed Nakobe Dean literally a few minutes ago. You've got Ashton Genty, who I think is going to have a big second year in the NFL. Like, there's a lot of hopeful optimism with this Raiders team moving forward. For Baltimore, it's making this move shows you, hey, it's win now. We are in win now mode, and Lamar Jackson, we are concerned about his long-term health, and let's be honest, not very good in the playoffs. He's not. People rip on Dak Prescott for not being a great playoff quarterback. Numbers are better than Lamar's. They've won the same amount of playoff games, or I think Lamar's won more than Dak, but the numbers are eerily similar. And Lamar's obviously a better player than Dak. He's a 2-time league MVP. Some people think he should have been 3-time league MVP after a couple of seasons ago. Derrick Henry is still fantastic. We saw he actually was better at the end of last year than at the beginning. He's a freak of nature, but he is going into year 11. Like that's a real thing. And with the wear and tear on that body over the course of a 10, 11-year career and going back to high usage rate, obviously at Alabama, like that's something that the new coaching staff under Jesse Minter is going to have to monitor. Your offensive line just got worse. Tyler Linderbaum's gone. Maxx Crosby's obviously going to make your pass rush better. Again, the Ravens last year, 28th in sacks, 29th in pressures. Maxx Crosby's obviously going to help that. But now with Draymond Jones gone, okay, well, now that's not an elite, or not elite, but a good kind of number 2 pass rush guy if and when Maxx Crosby faces double teams. So that's gone. Now, I think Jesse Minter's going to fix the Ravens defense. What's the offense going to look like? Because likely's gone. Lamar's a bad playoff quarterback, although he is a great regular season quarterback. He was amazing against my Steelers in Week 18, almost won the division for the Ravens. Derrick Henry's not getting any younger. Who's your lead wide receiver? Like, do you trust Zay Flowers at this point to make another jump? I mean, he's going to year 4 now. We need to see that leap from this kid. We really haven't seen it yet. So I gotta be honest. I don't really see it with the Baltimore Ravens. Even Mark Andrews, who's Lamar Jackson's number 1 target, not getting younger. He's 30, so he's probably in the back end of his prime. And if you're the Ravens, you don't have any first-round picks of the next 2 drafts to address some of your needs. Now, listen, the Ravens have been a good drafting organization over the course of their history, so it's not the end of the world for them. But when you consider this year, we had a top 20 draft pick because we finished 8-9 and couldn't beat the old Pittsburgh Steelers for the division. So I think it's an element of Vegas gets pieces to build for the future. Now, obviously, again, the Ravens are a better team and far better positioned just by virtue of having Lamar Jackson to go deep in the playoffs than the Raiders are with Fernando Mendoza, who I like, but he hasn't played yet. We got to see what he produces on the field. But I think long-term outlook, I think you should be more optimistic if you're a Raiders fan than a Ravens fan. It has nothing to do with, again, Maxx Crosby's production. He's awesome. He's a game wrecker. There's no question about it. Part of the reason he hasn't gotten the shine that a lot of the other pass rushers have gotten, he plays in Vegas. They're trailing in a lot of games. He doesn't have the requisite amount of opportunities to get to the quarterback that a Micah Parsons has had, that a TJ Watt has had in their careers. So I think it's going to be great to see him. Okay, they're going to be on some national TV games this year. Maxx Crosby, really for the first time, 2021 is kind of the exception, but that was a weird year in general for the Raiders. For the first time in his career, he's going to be playing games that matter for a team that's a Super Bowl or bust type of football team. But it still comes down to Lamar, who's not going to have Tyler Linderbaum, and who's not going to have Isaiah Likely. We'll see what the Ravens do in the rest of free agency in the draft. But I think you should be more optimistic if you're a Raiders fan than a Ravens fan today. Maxx Crosby, sensational, but I think ultimately at the end of the day, this team got better. By the way, speaking of the Raiders, another deal just broke. So they signed Nakobe Dean right as we were going on air. They also just signed Quay Walker, former linebacker of the Green Bay Packers. So they've got Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean. They're spending money in free agency. You're going to get Fernando Mendoza. You've got 4 first-round picks. One of them, of course, will be Mendoza over the next 2 drafts. Kubiak's a really smart coach. So I got to admit, man, I like Vegas's future. I do. Tom Brady's in the building. That's never a bad thing. He can help the business side of things. And he can also, from a personnel standpoint, and he can obviously help Fernando Mendoza with his development. Whereas with Baltimore, they got an elite player, but they also just lost 3 really, really important contributors to a team that in the Lamar Jackson era has made 1 conference championship game. And the Bills aren't going anywhere. They just got DJ Moore. Okay, the Chargers, let's see Justin Herbert win a playoff game for once. The Patriots just made a Super Bowl. Pittsburgh, I don't know, last I checked, maybe I'm tripping as a Steelers fan. Seems like we at worst split with the Ravens every year. And or at least in the mix for the division with Baltimore by season's end, despite significantly less upside at quarterback over the years. And Lamar has struggled in his career historically against Pittsburgh. So it's not that I don't like the trade. I just think the Raiders won, and I think Baltimore, they're kind of in the same spot they've been. Yeah, they'll be good. They'll probably be a playoff team. They should be the favorite to win the AFC North. Browns are awful. Bengals are dysfunctional. The Steelers, I got to see some of the moves we make. Although I have liked what I've seen thus far. More on that later. I don't think Baltimore has a chance to win the AFC next year at all, barring a drastic move. I don't see it. Let's shift, though, to the team that actually did beat the Baltimore Ravens in their only AFC title game appearance in the Lamar Jackson era, and a team that, safe to say, has taken a step back on a number of fronts. We're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, who made 5 Super Bowls in the span of, 6 years, from 2019 to 2024, 5 Super Bowls in the span of 6 years. Unbelievable. Obviously had a 6-11 year last year. Excuse me. There was a question about, okay, is Kelce going to come back? What's Mahomes' status going to look like at the start of the season with the torn ACL? Mahomes, that's still up in the air. We're in March. If I had to guess, I'd say Mahomes will probably be back around week 4 or 5, like maybe late September, early October. I think the Chiefs want to play this as conservative as possible, as they should. This is the greatest player in franchise history, absolutely. But they got the news over the weekend, and the deal was finalized today. 1-year contract. Travis Kelce's back. Now, on the Kelce side of it, and then we'll get to the other move that Kansas City made today. On the Kelce side of it, I have so much respect for this guy. And I was thinking about this today, and over the last 24 hours as some of the offseason moves have started to leak in, and then came into a full-blown flood at noon today with Travis Kelce, that all legendary athletes have one thing in common. I'm talking about the legendary greatest players in the history of their position, all of it. And Kelce's obviously a Mount Rushmore tight end in NFL history. They all just love the game. They love to play. Travis Kelce, first of all, on the field, he has nothing to prove. He's the greatest tight end in Chiefs history. Respect to Tony Gonzalez. Obviously, it's not necessarily Gonzalez's fault, but Travis Kelce's won 3 Super Bowls with the Chiefs. He's the greatest playoff pass catcher in NFL history, including Jerry Rice. He's passed Jerry Rice in a number of categories in the postseason. Kelce's a legend. There's no question about it. Made his money. He is as set as any athlete currently in sports, basically in American team sports, basically outside of LeBron and Steph Curry. Maybe even more so. Bron's a billionaire. Steph's going to be. He's going to marry Taylor Swift this summer. Off-field opportunities. He's set for life. He's like, you know what? I want to come back and play football. I want to go through training camp. I want to go through an off-season, getting my body ready for a 14th season of NFL football, taking punishing hits. And I'm not sure what Mahomes' health is going to be. He's going to be back that next season. It's just a matter of when. I don't know what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to look like as it pertains to legitimate Super Bowl contention in the AFC. There's those doubts. Last time we were in the postseason, got to Super Bowl, got curb stomped by Philly, came back with 6-11. But Travis Kelce loves the game. LeBron James, I've used this example many times. LeBron has nothing to play for at this point. Legacy, pretty much set. You're not really going to convince someone for or against at this point if LeBron is or isn't the GOAT. Money, he's a billionaire. Championships, he's won 4 of them. MVP, same number. Braun loves to play basketball, and he's still quite good at it. Same with Kelce. And again, with Kelce, clearly there's been a fall-off between now and when he was an elite tight end, best tight end in football, to now. He's still a really productive player at his position. We can show you the numbers. Among tight ends last season, he was still quite good. Tied for 6th in catches, tied for 13th in touchdowns, 4th in yards, 9th in yards per catch, and then 4th in terms of targets. So Travis Kelce's still a really, really productive player, and I just love the purity of, I just love to play the game of football. So that I find really cool. The other thing that's good news for the Kansas City Chiefs today, they signed the Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker. They signed him to a deal that's going to make him, I believe, the 3rd highest paid running back in terms of average annual salary per season. And we could show you again, Kenneth Walker, we used this graphic the day after the Super Bowl, but in the Super Bowl, he was sensational. 29 touches, 161 total yards, 5 yards a carry. He is the 3rd player in Super Bowl history with 2 25-yard runs. And in terms of his career in Seattle, he's like the 3rd greatest Seahawks running back ever, arguably, outside of, obviously, beast mode and Sean Alexander. 8th in rushing yards, 5th in rushing touchdowns, 1st in playoff rush yards in a single run, and he's a Super Bowl MVP. These are all career ranks in his career in Seattle. So we knew he was going to be a sought-after free agent. The Kansas City Chiefs nabbed him. And I think the rationale behind this is twofold. Number one, a lot of mock drafts, which, by the way, first mock draft coming on Wednesday. Very excited about that. A lot of mock drafts have had Jeremiah Love going number 9 to Kansas City, the fantastic running back out of Notre Dame. The Chiefs probably had to have a sense, they obviously have their finger to the pulse more than we average fans do, that unless we trade up, he's probably not going to be available by the time we're on the clock. He's almost certainly going to be one of the first 8 players taken in the draft. Maybe one of the first 5 players taken, depending on who's on the clock and who likes Jeremiah Love. So that's number one. Number two, okay, we've never given Patrick Mahomes a legitimate run game in his career. In fact, I saw a stat today. Shout out to Doug Clawson, who I quote often during the NFL season. Doug Clawson pulled this up today, that Kansas City, if we have this, Kansas City had fewer runs. Kansas City running backs had fewer runs of more than 25 yards last season than Kenneth Walker had in one Super Bowl drive. In other words, Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, more 25-yard runs on one drive than Chiefs running backs had all season long. Patrick Mahomes has often been viewed stylistically as sort of the in-between between pocket guy and mobile guy. Like somewhere in between, like he can use his legs. He doesn't really use them that much except when he has to in the postseason. We know he's had some big playoff runs against the Titans in that AFC title game, their first championship run. The big run on a bad ankle against Philadelphia in their second Super Bowl win, first Super Bowl matchup with the Eagles. Mahomes will use his legs. It's not something he necessarily wants to do that often. Last year, he kind of didn't have a choice. A, the O-line was bad, and B, he had no running game. Isaiah Pacheco, God bless him, not the same player since the injury a couple of seasons ago. Obviously, Kareem Hunt, probably the best short yardage back in the league. If it's 4th down and 1, Kareem Hunt's getting you the first down. That's it. Nothing beyond that. There was even a guy, was it, oh gosh, I don't want to mess up. Was it Rashad Smith or something like that? Chiefs fans were telling me on TikTok, even when I was high on the Chiefs last season, man, this kid, and I'm like, I think this is ultimately going to be the weak point of Kansas City. They can't run the football. Well, Kenneth Walker can run the football. And by the way, he's putting up the numbers that he did despite not sharing carries exclusively, but it's about 60-40 with the load they carry with Zach Charbonnet, who suffered the season-ending injury. Then it was all Kenneth Walker. And so you add him to a group where Kansas City, what's the strength of their offensive line? The interior. Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, both elite players at their position. Creed Humphrey's the best center in the league, and Trey Smith, top 5 right guard in the league. So that's going to be something that can help Kansas City's offense. So the comfort, I say all that to say this, the comfort of Kelce being there as the security blanket, which he's been for Mahomes for a decade, basically, now adding Kenneth Walker, by far the best running back he's had in his time as the Chiefs quarterback, they can ease Mahomes in and take some of the load off of him. Because let's be honest, the Chiefs' weapons, we don't know what's going to go on with Rashee Rice as it pertains to his off-field situation. Xavier Worthy did not take the year 2 jump that I think a lot of us thought he would. And Hollywood Brown, that hasn't really worked. So, yes, Kelce's older, but there's a familiarity. There's a comfort with Travis Kelce, who, again, show the numbers again, Travis Kelce, still a very, very productive tight end. He's not prime Travis Kelce, far from it, but among tight ends, he's still excellent. And Mahomes trusts him in big third down situations and in the red zone. Now you give him a running game to where the strength of Kansas City's offensive line is in the interior. That is really, really good business by Brett Veach. I'm sure Andy Reid had a hand in it and saying, we're not sure Mahomes is going to be back for week 1. We're not sure what this offense is going to look like, but you know what? Let's not throw him back into the same fire that we did a year ago, where Rashee Rice's availability is up in the air. Xavier Worthy, no fault of his own, got hurt the first game of the season, and that threw off the rhythm with him and Mahomes. The tackles weren't very good for Kansas City last year. Mahomes was running for his life before he blew his ACL. We're not going to throw him into that same type of situation. We're going to ease him back in, give him a running game, give him a security blanket, and then we'll see what they do, obviously, with the NFL draft. But I thought this was a very, very smart move for the Kansas City Chiefs. We've got another free agent move, and this is going to happen throughout the show today, by the way. Another free agent move just broke. Kenny Pickett, former first-round quarterback with my Pittsburgh Steelers. He has agreed to a 1-year deal with the Carolina Panthers up to $7.5 million, which includes $4 million in guarantee. So I assume he's just going to be Bryce Young's backup. there's some stylistic similarities. Pickett's probably more athletic than Bryce. Bryce is far more accurate and oddly sees the field much better than Pickett, even at 5 feet 9 inches tall. So yeah, most of the big free agent news, because clarification, today isn't the official start of free agency. It's the start of the legal tampering window. Free agency in the new league year, technically starts on Wednesday. But today is the day where, okay, deals become public. They're not official, but they're going to be. Like a vast majority of these deals, thare going to go through. These guys are going to be part of their new teams or signing extensions with their current teams. We'll give sort of a recap of some of the deals that has gone on today. I'll just show you my phone. Like I've kept track of it all day. Like we just got a bunch of stuff going on here. So very, very exciting stuff. We're going to take a 1-minute break, but when we come back, Mike Evans, greatest receiver in the history of the Tampa Bay Bucks, he's going to San Francisco. He's going to the Bay Area to help the 49ers offense. Touch on that. Also discuss the Dolphins releasing Tua. He actually just signed with the Falcons about an hour before we went on air. Going to talk about that. Malik Willis signs with the Dolphins to replace Tua. Lots of deals. Michael Pittman Jr. is coming to my Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm very happy about that. Lots of deals in free agency. We'll get to all of those in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Back to Carving Up Live. I told you guys this is going to be the kind of show that it is. We're going to have some big free agent news breaking. We just got a big domino that dropped today. Seahawks are bringing back Rashid Shaheed on a 3-year, $51 million deal, which includes $34.7 million guaranteed per one of the biggest powerhouse agents in the game, Drew Rosenhaus and Robert Bailey. So Rashid Shaheed, not much of a surprise here. We kind of heard Seattle was probably going to let Kenneth Walker, no pun intended, walk in free agency, and he's obviously now a Kansas City Chief. Rashid Shaheed, though, who was absolutely instrumental to their run of going to and winning the Super Bowl. He was huge in that Week 16 game that, to me, was the difference in them winning the Super Bowl or losing in the NFC Championship game when they came back and beat the Rams on that Thursday night. He made some huge plays in the return game, in the run game, had the opening kick return for a touchdown against the 49ers in their first playoff game, and then obviously NFC title game. He made some big plays again against LA. He was my pick to win Super Bowl MVP before their game against New England, and it ended up being Kenneth Walker. But Rashid Shaheed is back with the Seattle Seahawks. It is 3 years, $51 million, 34.7 million of that is guaranteed. So good stuff. Good for him. Elite player. I've always been a fan of his going back to his days with the Saints. So Seahawks really with their first kind of big move. They've lost a lot of defensive players today. Kobe Bryant. Who else? They obviously like Kenneth Walker. So it's the downside of being a Super Bowl champion. Yeah, really the only downside is that, okay, you get off to a late start to the offseason and some of your best players end up, re-signing for greater contracts in other teams. But listen, they've got one of the best front offices in the game. John Schneider's an elite GM. They'll be fine in the draft. So Seattle will be amongst the contenders in the NFC next year, I believe. All right, let's shift, though. Speaking of Seattle and the NFC West, let's talk about one of the teams that, hey, did challenge them for the division. They were in a Week 18 game at home against Seattle, lost in large part due to their plethora of injuries. The San Francisco 49ers got a good one. They signed Mike Evans today from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So listen, Mike Evans has always been one of my favorite players in the league, just from a consistency standpoint, from a leadership standpoint, in terms of what he's brought to Tampa over the course of his career. Like, this is a guy who's drafted in the first round out of Texas A&M, inherits a Bucs situation with, I think, Mike Glennon started the majority of games that year, his first year in Tampa, and then Jameis Winston. We all love Jameis, but didn't exactly live up to being the number 1 overall pick in that draft. And it's You're having Ryan Fitzpatrick come in. And then thankfully for Mike Evans, the greatest quarterback in the history of the game comes in, wins the Super Bowl year one. But Mike Evans, let's look at his legendary career with the Tampa Bay Bucks. As far as I'm concerned, absolute, no question Hall of Famer. 866 catches, 108 receiving touchdowns, which I guess equals, not including postseason touchdowns, a lot of footballs thrown into the crowd, because that's his touchdown celebration. 13,052 receiving yards. He's a two-time All-Pro guy, six-time Pro Bowler, and of course, Super Bowl champion back in Super Bowl 55 with the Buccaneers. And it did feel like over time the writing was kind of on the wall. The Bucs have actually made some nice moves. They brought in my guys, broke my heart. I wanted the Steelers to bring him back. Kenny Gainwell. They brought in Alex Anzalone. So Tampa's made some moves. But Mike Evans, it's like the Bucs will be good. They're absolutely in the race to win the NFC South next year with Carolina, the Saints, really Atlanta. Really all four teams have a reasonable chance to win the South next year. Make of that what you will about the division. But Tampa Bay was not going to be a contender next season, especially after the way they finished. Losing Liam Cohen to the Jacksonville Jaguars was kind of the death knell for that offense. They were bad at closing out games. They had an embarrassing Thursday night loss to the Atlanta Falcons late in the season that kind of cost them the division. Mike Evans is like, hey, I put in my 12 years with this franchise. 13, I think, absolutely should and will be retired by the Buccaneers at Raymond James Stadium someday after Mike Evans retires. I want to go to a team where I believe I have a chance to contend for a Super Bowl before I, decide to retire. Evans, I think, is on a 3-year deal, so he should, be there for more than beyond 2026. And if you're San Francisco, there is the concern of, well, we are kind of the hotbed for injuries, to put it mildly. And there's been some studies going to that about where the practice facility is located and if that has a direct impact on Niners players being healthy at all. Hey, that's beyond my comprehension. I'll let the experts take care of that, but it's something. But you got Brock Purdy coming back off of what in my opinion, I've been a Brock Purdy skeptic and critic at times on the show. I thought the way Brock played at the end of last season, the game against Chicago where he kind of carried that offense, the game-winning drive against the Eagles in that first playoff game, I was very impressed by the way Brock Purdy closed the season. O-line wasn't great, dealing with injuries. We know about the injuries to Pearsall, who was in and out of the lineup. Kittle, God bless him, blew his Achilles in that wild card game against Philly. Who knows when he'll be back. Juwan Jennings stepped up late in the season, but he dealt with his share of injuries. And based on reports, it looks like the Niners are probably going to trade Trent Williams to a win-now contending team that is willing to pay him for, I guess, one more year, and then he'll likely retire and go to Canton. But if you're San Francisco, this is a smart move. You give Brock Purdy a legit number one receiver, especially now that Kittle is almost certainly not going to be ready for the start of next season. So you add him to Juwan Jennings. You've got Ricky Pearsall. You've got Christian McCaffrey. That's a really, really elite group of skill position players. I would argue comparable to that of the team in 2023 that I think we all thought was like a super offense. Oh, you got McCaffrey and Kittle and Deebo Samuel in the last year of his prime, and Brandon Ayuk before he decided he was done playing football. Just a loaded group of weapons. Juwan Jennings was there. Now you have, again, Trent is probably gone. McCaffrey, knock on wood, he stays healthy because that's always a bit of a coin flip. You've got Juwan Jennings and Evans and Pearsall. And let's be honest, Kyle Shanahan being the offensive wizard that he is, he'll make, even if they draft a guy in the 6th round, he'll make that guy a part of the offense because we know about the injuries in San Francisco. It's a problem. I mean, Mac Jones, who I think is not a very good quarterback, Mac Jones stepped in 1 game and looked pretty good with this team. Mac Jones won a Thursday night game. One of the games that really stuck out for me was San Francisco last year. Remember that Thursday nighter when they went to LA and it was like the Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne show? That's Kyle Shanahan. I thought he was a deserved finalist. Frankly, he would have gotten my vote for Coach of the Year based on what he was dealing with offensively last year. But if you're San Francisco, yeah, a guy, Mike Evans, who obviously dealt with his fair share of injuries a year ago, only played 8 games. I think he had about 368 yards receiving. But the first 11 years of Mike Evans' career, guess what? 1,000 yards in each of the first 11 seasons. That's what really sucks about the injury last year. He dealt with some shoulder stuff, is that he didn't have a chance to break Jerry Rice's record for the most consecutive seasons with 1,000 yards or more receiving. I would have liked to, if Mike Evans didn't get the record, I would have liked to have been, he played all 17 and he fell 50 yards short. Not that, yeah, he didn't get it because injuries knocked him out for half the year. So that really sucks. He won't be asked to carry the same load or the same responsibility offensively with San Francisco that he did with Tampa. So listen, we know the Niners got to fix their defense. I think the loss of Robert Saleh is a huge one for that side of the football. But by and large, this is a very smart move for San Francisco. John Lynch is one of the best GMs in the game. We know that. Evans is still a productive player. And so I think this is a really smart move for the San Francisco 49ers. Another move that was made, and this I wanted to discuss. So the Miami Dolphins decided to release Tua Tagovailoa and take on a record-setting $99 million in dead money, and they're going to spread that out over the next 2 years. I'm a little surprised they're not just going to eat it all this year. Maybe they capitalize. They really just couldn't make it work. But just say, hey, we're not going to be that good this year. New coach in Jeff Hafley, new quarterback Malik Willis, more on him later, coming into the fray. We're not going to be that good this year. Kind of build for 2027 to start our ascent, hopefully. But Tua Tagovailoa released by the Dolphins, and then about an hour before we went on air, signed with the Atlanta Falcons on a 1-year deal. So get to the Atlanta situation a second with Tua, because he's been, I think, one of the most polarizing players in the league for the last few years, because he gets off to start his career. There's the issues he has with Brian Flores and the stuff that comes out of Miami. Hey, Flores wanted to take Herbert number 5, not Tua. Obviously, Herbert has ended up the much better player over Tua Tagovailoa. You have the to and on cult on social media that just swears absolutely top 5 quarterback. You guys don't get it. You guys don't understand the game. He's amazing. He's elite. And there were points, I'll be honest, when he had Mike McDaniel, and when you got Tyreek Hill and Waddle and a great running game, it's like, okay, the numbers are what they are. There was a point in time in 2023 where he was getting some MVP buzz. He's led the league in completion percentage, in passing yards. Like, he's been productive. But there's a very, very specific way for you to win and for Tua to be productive in said wins. Get the ball out of your hands quick. Now, some of that is, to be fair to Tua, the Dolphins never had that great of an offensive line, to be fair. But he's incapable of making plays out of the pocket. And with the concussion history that we know he has, very unfortunately, he's getting the ball out of his hands quicker than ever, because he's not a mobile player. He's not going to get out of the pocket and make plays. So he's like, hey, I'm not risking any, much more of my long-term health here. Get the ball to your hands, live to see another play. And so going to Atlanta now is really interesting in the sense that obviously the first thing people think of is, wait a second. They have an immobile quarterback who's also a lefty, who has an injury history in Michael Penix Jr., who, again, I confess, I loved going into the draft. I thought he was going to be the second best player at his position to Caleb Williams. Turns out Caleb is the second best thus far to Drake May. We'll see how that continues to play itself out. It's relatively early. But I think if you're Tua, since he signed that contract, so back in 2024, do we have those numbers to us since 2024? Not great. 39 touchdowns, 22 picks, 70% completion. He's always going to be a good completion percentage guy. Again, a lot of that is because it's a lot of quick read in that offense that Mike McDaniel ran in Miami. 221 pass yards per game, 95 rating, 47 QBR from 0 to 100, and he lost more games than he won. He was 12-13. Last year was easily Tua's worst year since his rookie season. It's not even close. He was 19th in touchdowns, 7th in completion. He'll always behind that category, but 29th in pass yards per game, 25th in passer rating, 26th in QBR, and 26th in win percentage. He wasn't very good. I mean, I remember distinctly, and I know the Browns have a great defense, but I remember distinctly watching a game midseason. It was probably week 6, 7, 8. It felt like it was sometime in October. And just watching him against the Browns, I'm like, oh my God, like this guy, does he see the field? Like, I'm not sure what he's looking at right now. Like, we could blame Mike McDaniel, who I don't think is that good of I don't say that good. He's been in the playoffs twice. He's not incompetent, but I think is much more coordinator than coach. I think a coach has to have the ability to command the presence of a locker room, and I don't think Mike McDaniel has that quality. But when you're watching, I'm thinking, you can't blame this on the coach. You can't blame this on, wide receivers or weapons. You know what I do know? Tua has. We did a carving up the context segment on this last season. Tua's blamed receivers. Tua's blamed, centers for less than ideal snaps that resulted in safeties. He once blamed Tyreek Hill last season. Hey, Tyreek, you ran too far, buddy. I can't throw it that far. Okay, not great. I think there was a game against Miami, or not, he played for Miami. A game against Baltimore. I think it was a Thursday night game. No. It was it was a Thursday night game, but when they were playing the Buffalo Bills. And he's like, yeah, Josh Allen's way better than me, man. Well, duh, of course. But I don't know if I necessarily want you admitting that publicly to the media. We know you've taken shots at Brian Flores. We know you've taken shots at teammates for, hey, they're not showing up to players-only meetings, when some could perceive that as maybe because they don't mess with you as the leader. So with Tua, there are size concerns in an era, and I've said this multiple times on the show over the last few weeks, in an era of the NFL where the small quarterback, the undersized quarterback is less valuable than ever. Like Bryce Young, jury's still out, had the best season of his career, got the Panthers to the playoffs and played quite well in their playoff game. I like Bryce. Russell Wilson, look at his deterioration. Baker Mayfield. Baker went from MVP candidate the first month of the season to quietly, I don't know why this didn't get more buzz, but leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers into being one of the worst teams in the league of the second half of the season. Smaller player, not the elite play caller you used to have with Liam Cohen, and then with Dave Canales before him. Like the era of the small quarterback, I don't want to say it's fading like Kyler Murray. Look at how his career is kind of deteriorated. And if you're Tua, yes, you're accurate as long as everything is on script, on schedule in terms of the play design and how it's executed. But bad arm strength, can't move. There's the concussion history. And now there's leadership concerns when you're taking shots at teammates and coaches and what have you, not taking accountability for your poor performance last season. And so now you go into this Atlanta situation where I'll tell you, it really, really mirrors, with the exception of this is a new coach, whereas this other situation, the coach has been there for a while or for a few years. It's really, really similar to the feeling of when Daniel Jones was signed by the Indianapolis Colts when they had Anthony Richardson, where we like this quarterback. We invested a first-round pick in him. He showed some promise from time to time, shown us some real lows on other occasions. Let's bring in a veteran quarterback to kind of put some pressure on him. And ultimately, Daniel Jones won the job, and Colts got off to a pretty good start before he went down. Like today, Tua is probably a better player than Michael Penix Jr. It's close. Listen, I loved Penix before the draft. Penix has a size advantage over Tua. He's 6'3", so that's, seeing over the offensive line, that's not an issue. But like Tua, there's mobility concerns. There's durability concerns. With Tua, it's concussions. With Penix, it's his knees. Like these are real problems that if you're Kevin Stefanski, year one, so there's pressure to win immediately, but Kyle Pitts did finish the regular season strong. He's back on a franchise tag. Bijan Robinson is one of the 5 best players at his position. You've got Drake London. Like Atlanta's got pieces. If you're Kevin Stefanski, hey, I didn't draft Penix. I'm going with whoever's the best option right now for Atlanta. So I think we're going to see, I think that is going to be absolutely the most fascinating quarterback battle in training camp once we get to that stage in July and August. It's going to be interesting because there are limitations with both. Tua is obviously more experienced. Tua has had highs in this league that Penix hasn't reached yet. Penix is the younger player. And also there's the element of if Tua wins the job, you can't trade Penix because of Tua's injury history. So Tua, God forbid, goes down, you got to go with Penix. It's a very, very weird situation. But the part that is just mind-boggling in all this is the $99 million in dead money that the Dolphins are going to have to eat over the next 2 years. But if you're a Dolphins fan, and I know there's not been a lot to be optimistic about since the retirement of Dan Marino, if we're being honest, over the last quarter century, there is a blueprint for this working. Denver cut Russell Wilson. I forgot how much dead money. It wasn't $99 million, but it was, I think at that time it was a record when the Broncos let Russell Wilson go. They drafted Bo Nix, and look at Denver now. Playoffs year 1, go to the AFC title game in year 2, and who knows, if Bo Nix was healthy, maybe they beat New England, maybe they don't. But again, Denver historically is a much better run organization than Miami, but Jeff Hafley comes in, great defensive coordinator with the Packers, and you bring Malik Willis in, and we'll touch on Malik later, but I don't know, Jeff Hafley practiced or coached against this guy in practice every week. Obviously, he saw something he liked. So, I think Miami has reason for optimism. What do we have next? Okay, so let's go over some of the free agent signings, and then I did want to touch on the Dallas Cowboys because I think they've made actually some pretty smart moves in the last few months. So, what do we have first? Okay, so again, in between today's show and then last Wednesday's show, kind of a sneaky big trade. The Chicago Bears moving DJ Moore to the Buffalo Bills. Chicago gets a draft pick out of it. DJ Moore did have, production-wise, the worst season of his career in Chicago. And again, if you're the Bears, we've got Luther Burden. We've got Cole Kmet and we just lost okay, I think I got the mic back. Here we go. Okay. That happens from time to time. No, but Chicago's got plenty of weapons. Like they kind of had a riches of weapons, so to speak, all the perimeter. And so losing DJ Moore, that's not the end of the world. For Buffalo, okay, you got DJ Moore. You've already got Khalil Shakir. You've got not one, but two excellent tight ends. Elite offensive line, although they did lose one today. And James Cook. Like, if you're Josh Allen, here you go. I mean, if Buffalo wants to go get you another weapon in the draft, there you go again. So, like, there is an element of, I know people have wanted to make it over the last few years, like Josh is just carrying a bunch of guys. Like, it's like Josh Allen, James Cook, and that's it. Elite O-line, two excellent tight ends. Yeah, the receiving core wasn't that great last year. Well, it got better. It just added DJ Moore. And we'll see what Buffalo with this new, not that new regime, because Joe Brady has been a part of this organization for the last few years, but offensive-minded philosophy coming into the equation now. You think that helps, Josh? So I don't know. We'll see. But Buffalo got better the other day. And if you're Chicago, listen, you unload a salary that was going to cost you in the long run. There was some chemistry issues between DJ Moore and Caleb Williams. Caleb had I think he had 3 picks in their playoff loss against the Rams. The third one was 100% not his fault. In overtime, looks like the Bears are going to go down. They're going to win another miracle game. Caleb throws the ball down the right side of the field to DJ Moore, and DJ Moore just stops running, and it ends up being a pick, and the Rams get in field goal range and win it. So that was a concern. But you've got plenty of weapons other than that, so I don't think it's going to hurt Chicago that bad at all. Trent McDuffie, we talked about this last week. He was traded from the Chiefs to the Rams. He signed the biggest extension of any corner in the history of the NFL. Is going to pay him upwards of $30 million a year, so congrats to him. He's an elite player. Speaking of Chiefs corners going to the Rams, they got Jalen Watson, did the Rams from Kansas City, although this one obviously being in free agency. Khalil Mack stayed with the LA Chargers. Sean Ryan stays in Green Bay. Alec Pierce, big deal for Alec Pierce, making, I think, $29 million a year, staying with the Indianapolis Colts. He had a big season. He's one of the best deep threat receivers in the game. So with Indianapolis bringing back Daniel Jones on the transition tag, like you want to have his legit number one weapon there, more on a weapon that he lost to Pittsburgh. Get to that in a few minutes. Sheldon Rankin staying in Houston. Dolphins trading Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Miami Dolphins. Dolphins trading Minkah Fitzpatrick to the New York Jets, who signed him. I think it was like a 3-year extension. So good for Minkah. Listen, I know obviously what he did in Pittsburgh. I think he is an excellent leader, sees the field. And if you look at the Jets, they've made a lot of moves on the defensive side of the football. Aaron Glenn is just tripling down. I'm a defensive guy. It came out the other day. Aaron Glenn's going to call the defense. Bad year one as a head coach, and then you have the aesthetic of him in the press box during the combine. Looks like he's falling asleep. So not great. So Aaron Glenn's like, I was a good coordinator with the Lions. I'm going to call the defense, and we're going to go all in on that side of the football. We're going to be a defense-first football team and pretty much the hell with the offense. So we'll see how that works out for the Jets. So they bring in Minkah Fitzpatrick on a trade. They also, by the way, added Joseph Asai, Kingsley Enagbare, and Demario Davis, who started his career with the Jets, was a great player and great leader with the Saints over time. He comes back to the New York Jets on, I think, a 2-year deal. So you have that. What else we had? Buster Brown stays with the Jaguars. Draymond Jones to the Patriots. We mentioned that. Laramie Tunsil signing extension with the Washington Commanders. Eric Stokes extension with the Raiders. Cade Otton, tight end in Tampa. He stays with the Buccaneers. Jalen Phillips, big deal. 4-year deal to go to the Carolina Panthers. There was a lot of speculation. It seemed like there was a general feel that, oh, yeah, he's going to stay in Philadelphia. They obviously traded for him last year for the Miami Dolphins. He's a very, very talented pass rusher. Nope. Carolina makes the move. He goes to the Panthers, and so they're trying to make their defense better. That's okay. We got another Steeler that's on the move now. All right. Dang, I hate that we lost him. Isaac Seumalo. I liked him, man. Isaac Seumalo, guard, has just signed with the Arizona Cardinals, 3 years, $31 million, according to Ian Rappaport. And Pro Football Focus says 76.4 pass blocking grade in 2025, which was 7th among guards. I really, really like Seumalo. I hate that we lost him to Arizona. What else do we have? Speaking of the Steelers, I like this move, keeping Asante Samuel Jr., who played well at the end of last season. This move I really, really, really liked. So the Steelers have plenty of holes, particularly on the offensive side of the football, one of which being, and we saw it in glaring fashion at the end of the season when DK Metcalf was suspended in week 17 and 18, they do not have a legit number 2 receiver opposite DK. Well, now they do. They traded for Michael Pittman Jr. We could show you what he did last year with the Colts and what was somewhat of a down year for him. So it's like, oh, what can he do in Pittsburgh? 80 catches, 7 touchdowns, 784 yards, 9.8 yards per catch on 111 targets. Anybody that's watched or listened to the show for any length of time knows I am a big fan of Michael Pittman Jr. High character guy, great locker room guy, team captain, also somebody who can beat you over the top, a good possession receiver, route runner, the whole bit. So adding him now opposite DK Metcalf, it's like, oh, that's a legit number 1, number 2 wide receiving tandem. And it does to me show, okay, with Mike McCarthy coming to the building, now there's more of an emphasis on offense. Okay, there's a transition going now in Pittsburgh that I do like. I will say, and I probably should have mentioned this during the Kelce segment, but I did touch on it on Wednesday. Okay, Travis Kelce has made his decision on whether he's playing. Aaron Rodgers, buddy, there's no excuse. It's been 2 months since the season ended. Are you coming back or are you not? Obviously, I'd prefer you don't. I would have preferred to experiment with Malik Willis, but again, he's now in Miami. At this point, let's see what the young kid, Will Howard, has. Let's see what he brings to the table. He's got weapons. I hate that Kenneth Gainwell's gone. I really, really liked him. I wish we would have been able to keep him. But so there you go. Oh, we got another. Man, Philadelphia's taking some losses in free agency. Reed Blankenship, former safety from Philadelphia now, signing with the Houston Texans, 3 years, $24.75 million. Philadelphia's had a rough offseason thus far. Jalen Phillips gone. They very well might move Jalen Carter potentially. You're seeing some rumors in regards to that. Reed Blankenship gone. Not an ideal offseason for Philadelphia. Now, does this complicate the A.J. Brown situation, given the number of key guys, albeit on the defensive side, that they're losing? So it's something. And I'll touch on Dallas in a few minutes, but I'm a little bit of a preview. I'm a little bullish on the Cowboys in 2026. I'll save that for a few minutes from now. But continuing, Malik Willis to the Dolphins, we can show you, again, it's a very limited sample size with Malik Willis and his time in Green Bay. He only started 3 games, but in his 3 starts, pretty good. Pretty efficient, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 79% completion, 204 pass yards per game, 132 rating, a 90 QBR 0-100, which is excellent, a 2-1 record. I was in attendance for his second start as a Packer. I think it was week 3 of 2024 when they played the Tennessee Titans. And I remember watching, again, just from naked eye from the stands, thinking like, God, this guy's got some zip on the football. Like, he's shown you all of the qualities that folks like myself liked in him in the 2022 draft. I thought he was in a very weak draft class at that position. I thought he was the best player at that position. Turns out it was Brock Purdy. But he's got a solid arm. He moves very well. He can make plays with his legs. And I thought in relief of Jordan Love the last 2 years, he put himself in this position to be able to make the money he did with Miami. So happy to see him get an opportunity there. By all accounts, high character kid. So pulling for him to work for the Dolphins as the replacement to Tua. What else do we have? Mention Isaiah Likely to the Giants. Again, big loss for the Ravens. As for John Harbaugh, he brings in one of his guys to New York. It makes sense. Neville Gallimore to the Bears. James Pierre from my Steelers to the Vikings. Joseph Asai to the Jets. We mentioned that. Kenneth Gainwell to the Bucks and Alex Anzalone to the Bucks. Sneakily, a story that's not getting talked about. Detroit is in a situation where, okay, they moved David Montgomery, and now they let Alex Anzalone, walk out the building. Like, Detroit's in a little bit of a transition year in the sense of, yeah, they could still be a playoff team in 2026, but I don't think, unless they just home run the draft, which is on the board. Brad Holmes, one of the best GMs in the league, it's on the board. Unless they just hit like 3 or 4 home runs in the draft, like I just don't see a path for them to win the NFC North this season. I think that's a Green Bay, Chicago race for first place next year. So, yeah, it's a big – Anzalone is one of the few consistently productive players in that Lions defense, and he goes to Tampa. Kobe Bryant to the Bears, good addition to their secondary. Tyler Linderbaum to the Raiders. Tyler Algier going to the Arizona Cardinals, so more touches for Bijan Robinson, so that's good. Travis Etienne to the Saints. We can show you what Travis Etienne did in his time in Jacksonville last season. He had basically 1,400 total yards, 13 total touchdowns. Like, I was a little surprised Jacksonville let him walk. So ETN's gone. They're almost certainly going to trade Brian Thomas Jr., where it was such a weird dynamic with the Jags last season. They won 13 games. Trevor was the best QB in the league from Thanksgiving on to the rest of the year. And yet it's Parker Washington stepping up. And it's obviously ETN was great down the second half of the season. It's like, I know there were injuries, but Brian Thomas Jr. seemed to have a better rapport with Mac Jones than with Trevor. After having, again, an amazing rookie season, he was my preseason pick, kind of a dark horse pick to win Offensive Player of the Year. And the combination of injuries, lack of connection with Trevor, like it was a very odd situation. So he'll probably get dealt. Jacksonville will get compensation from it, probably a first-round pick, if I had to guess, at worst a second-rounder. But ETN's gone. Big loss for the Jags. He's going to New Orleans, so that's another weapon for Tyler Shuck. So you've got an aging Alvin Kamara, and then you've got ETN coming to the building. That's really interesting. Wan'Dale Robinson, receiver for the Giants. He's going to the Titans. Makes sense. Brian Dable, his former coach of the Giants. He's now the OC with Tennessee, so there's a weapon for Cam Ward. Titans have spent money in free agency now. Jahan Dotson to the Falcons. David Edwards to the Saints. Jalen Naylor to the Raiders. Evans to the Niners. Really like this move for my Steelers. Jamel Dean, corner from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, coming to Pittsburgh to be at the Steelers. I saw this stat. Shout out to Warren Sharp, who's kind of the lead analytics guy on social media. This is some second and third level analytics, but it's important to keep your eye on this. He was without question the most valuable member of that Bucs defense a year ago. So with Jamel Dean on the field, the Bucs were 11th in EPA, 14th in success rate, 12th in yards per in YPA, and 10th in rating. With him in passer rating, opponent passer rating. With Dean off the field, dead last in EPA, second to last in success rate, 31st in yards per attempt, 32nd, dead last in opponent passer rating. So you had Jamel Dean opposite Joey Porter Jr., who's kind of your big physical corner. That's a really, really kind of underrated, under the radar type of move by Omar Khan, who I think is making some nice moves today. Losing Sam Alou sucks, I'm not going to lie. And losing Kenneth Gainwell, I really wanted us to bring him back. But hey, you bring in Michael Pittman Jr., bring in Jamel Dean, you re-sign Asante Samuel. These are some good sort of in-the-margin moves defensively. And then as for Pittman, you get a legit number 2 receiver opposite Metcalf. Love that. Zion Johnson to the Browns. John Franklin Myers to the Titans. A lot of Tennessee moves on the defensive side of the ball. Cordell Flott to the Titans. Alontae Taylor, who's a really good corner. Shout out to him, VFL from the Tennessee Volunteers. Played some good football with the New Orleans Saints. He's going back to the Volunteer State, except to play in Nashville with the Tennessee Titans. Brian Cook to the Bengals. J.K. Dobbins staying in Denver. He played very well for them last season. Tremaine Edmonds to the Giants. What else we got? Marcus Mariota, some backup quarterback deals. Mariota stays with the Commanders. Case Keenum stays with the Bears. Gardner Minshew is going to Arizona now. Maybe he'll be, if they don't love Ty Simpson, maybe he can be like their bridge guy to draft a quarterback next year. We'll see. Alex Singleton, who is a great story. He stays with the Denver Broncos. Great linebacker there. Odafe Owa to the Commanders. Jalen Thompson to the Dallas Cowboys. Boye Mafe to the Cincinnati Bengals. Really good move by them. So, yeah, there you go. So, listen, a lot of moves have happened today. Again, the Sam Alou and Reed Blankenship deals just dropped. Sam Alou to the Cardinals, 3 years, $31.5 million. Reed Blankenship to the Texans, 3 years, $24.75 million. So listen, deals are dropping fast, man. They're coming down the pike. We're going to take a 1-minute break. When we come back, reaction to the incredibly impressive debut of Jayson Tatum this season. At least I thought was the case. Get to that. What else we got? Oh, yeah, and talking about the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get to Dallas first, and then we'll get to Tatum. But take a 1-minute break. Some free agent news might break while we're on break, so stay tuned to Carve Amp Live. We're not going anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. What did I tell you? We got another free agent deal that just broke, and it's odd that we actually mentioned this guy's name kind of as an aside during the Mike Evans segment earlier in the show. But 49ers, now former receiver Kendrick Bourne to the Arizona Cardinals, 2 years, $11.47 million with a max value of $16.47 million. This is according to Adam Schefter. So Cardinals getting another weapon. So listen, Arizona's added Kendrick Bourne, Tyler Algier. They've got, they've added Gardner Minshew. Again, that feels like Brissett, I'm almost certain, is still under contract with the Cardinals. So you've got a Brissett, Gardner Minshew situation. They'll decide, I guess, who's the starter to start the season between one of those two guys. Kind of similar to what the Browns did last year. Again, for Arizona, it does feel like, unless they're just in love with Ty Simpson in the top 5 of the draft, which I don't think they should be. I think Ty Simpson's a second-round prospect in a very weak quarterback class. Unless they're in love with him, my guess is, hey, new regime, new head coach, start Gardner or, Jacoby Brissett all season long, probably tank, let's be honest, get a high pick next year and take a quarterback for what's supposed to be, a loaded 2027 class. Maybe not loaded, it's better than this year. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, Kendrick Bourne to the Cardinals. So again, this is, I got to admit, man, I love reacting to stuff after the fact. Live reactions are always fun just because you get the instantaneous sort of like, crazy stuff. So very, very exciting. Let's see. Mark Heather 8495 in the comments says the only reason this would ever matter is if you're a betting person. You talking about the Kendrick Bourne deal? We got another deal. Here we go. This is according to Jordan Schultz. The Browns are signing linebacker Quincy Williams, one of the Williams brothers from the Jets. Signing linebacker Quincy Williams to a 2-year deal worth up to $17 million. He was first among linebackers in defensive stops and tackles for loss since 2023. So this is a really, listen, if there's one thing for the Browns, quarterback situation is going to be chaotic. Head coach, Todd Monken, okay, not great. But the defense is always going to be good. They had the defensive rookie of the year at linebacker. You've obviously got the best defensive player in football, Myles Garrett. You did lose Jim Schwartz, which was a pretty devastating move. How they weren't able to retain him is beyond me. But so yeah, again, this is going to drop. News like this is going to drop, constantly. So really good stuff. Okay, let's talk though about the Dallas Cowboys. But before that, let's do what we always do on the show. Promote the Carving It Up merch. Scan the QR code on the top left corner of your screen. Check out the Carving It Up merch. We got hoodies. We got t-shirts. Not going to need hoodies for that much longer, man. We are fast tracking towards spring. We've already had daylight savings. So weather's getting warmer, so get some Carving Up t-shirts. We got hats. We've got, if you want to prepare for your summer vacation, we got beach towels, anything you can possibly imagine. As it relates to Carving It Up, you can check it out by scanning the QR code on the top left corner of your screen right now. Also, you can check out on the website our other amazing content creators on the Grid Network. We got Mike and Josh. We got All Even Podcast. We've got Cowboys Cam Fam. I know I think the Cowboys Cam Fam is going to like the segment I have coming in just a minute or so. Got some amazing content creators in the Grid. Saturday morning tailgate. Check out all of their stuff on the website. And if you just want regular Grid Network merch, you can have that too. We got hats, t-shirts. I've got a Grid Network hat, so feel free to check all of those things out on the Grid Network website. But again, scan the QR code. That's where the Carving Up merchandise is. All right, let's talk about him. America's team.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
So I gotta admit, man, last few years I've been quite hard on Dallas. For those that don't know, I actually was once upon a time in my young life, I was a Cowboys fan. For the time I was about, 11, 12 years old till 2020 when my man, Dak Prescott, suffered a devastating ankle injury. And I was a huge Dak fan going back to his days in the SEC at Mississippi State. I'm like, man, they screwed Dak over. Jerry didn't pay him. He paid him later. But at that point, I'm thinking, screw the Cowboys. Bad organization. Jerry doesn't know what he's doing, which by and large has been the case. Jerry doesn't care about winning, which is certainly the case. I'll root for Dak wherever he goes. That unfortunately happens to still be Dallas. I got to pick a new team. That's why I've been a Steelers fan for the last few years and for the rest of my life. But credit where it is due. I am nothing if not fair. Dallas has made some sneaky, really solid moves. So if you go back to the Micah trade, which I said then and by and large I maintain now was a terrible move. Bro, he's one of the 5 best players at his position, indisputably. I mean, look at Green Bay's defense. Forget Green Bay's defense. Green Bay didn't win a game after Micah Parsons went down. with that ACL tear against the Denver Broncos last year. So he's a game wrecker. He's a game changer. There's no question. You trade Micah. You obviously get back Kenny Clark. You give up you get 2 first-round picks in the deal. But if you go back to that trade, and then the Quinnen Williams trade, and then today they made a move to get the other pass rusher opposite Micah Parsons for the Packers, Rashawn Gary, giving up a 4th-round pick in that deal, that accumulates to this. So in the 3 trades they made to rebuild their defensive line, Dallas has gotten Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, and Rashawn Gary, and a 1st-round pick for this year. They've given up Micah Parsons, which is again, I maintain a pretty big mistake. But in terms of picks, they've given up a 2026 second, a 2027 first, which wasn't even initially their pick. That was from the Micah trade. And then today they gave up a 2027 4th-round pick to get Rashawn Gary. And if you're Dallas today, listen, the Commanders have made some sneaky good moves. They obviously brought back their left tackle and Larry Tunsil. They made some moves on the defensive side of the ball. Like, if Jaden's healthy, Washington's a factor in that division. The Giants, you have to take seriously now with John Harbaugh, adult, solid guy coming in the building, the development of Jackson Dart, the whole bit. And you look at Philly, probably the most talented team in the division, but they're just losing guys by, it seems like every day. It looks like they were going to bring back Jalen Phillips. Nope, he's going to Carolina. And it looked like that they were hopefully going to bring back Reed Blankenship. He's gone. He's going to Houston. And you had a very dysfunctional, discombobulated process in trying to find a new OC. Maybe Sean Mannion, maybe he fixes everything. Maybe he doesn't. I'm not sure. It's yet another offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts to have to learn a new system. Sirianni is on a red-hot seat, as he should be. Jalen Carter might be gone. Dallas has 2 picks, I think at 12 and 20, if I'm not mistaken, in this coming draft next month. Both should be defensive players. I think we all agree on that. Dallas had the second worst, by any metric, the second worst defense in football, Cincinnati last year. With the moves they made, Kenny Clark, Rashawn Gary, Quinnen Williams. If they can hit on these 2 picks, and if Christian Parker, their new DC, who a lot of people in Dallas are very high on, he actually came from Philadelphia. If those guys hit, and Dallas is the 14th best defense in the league, like league average. You have Dak Prescott coming off the 2nd best season of his career. You have Javonte Williams, who you brought back, who had a great year last year. You have CeeDee Lamb. You imagine, at least hope, knock on wood, will be healthier this year than he was a year ago. And George Pickens, who, for all his head case drama, unless he holds out, you've got him at least for this year on a franchise tag, which I do not think they should extend him, make him play the franchise tag, make him behave this year and show that he doesn't crash out in the sidelines or quit on the Cowboys, quit on Dak. Dallas might be my pick to win the NFC East this year, and I got to say, I don't see why they can't win a playoff game. That offense can compete with anybody. That's not the question. Dak's a top 10 guy, no dispute on that. Javonte Williams was top 10 in the league in rushing last year. Dallas's offensive line, bad in pass protection, great in run blocking. Like, if Dallas wants to go defense their first pick and then offensive line their second, wouldn't have a problem with that at all. Again, credit where it's due, man. Dallas has made some good moves post Micah trade, which I still think was not an abomination like the Luka trade, another Dallas, City of Dallas trade. Micah was pretty great in Green Bay last year. He's probably going to finish 2nd for Defensive Player of the Year to Myles Garrett before the injury. Packers, you saw what they were post-Micah trade. Or, sorry, not post-Micah trade, post-Micah injury. Dallas now has the guys they have. A lot of people in Texas are very high on Donovan Ezraku and his development. He was a 2nd-round pick last year from Boston College. They think he can have a big year 2 jump. You have Rashawn Gary, good pass rusher. You've got Quinnen Williams, who's an elite nose tackle. Kenny Clark, who's been a Pro Bowl, nose tackle. If you can fix that secondary, if a guy like Caleb Downs from Ohio State is available, you take him. If that defense, again, is competent, is a passable, league average defense, you know what you're getting from the offense. So long as number 4 is on the field, you know what you're getting from the offense. Dallas might be an 11-12 win team next year. They've had years where I thought the roster was worse than this. and they've won 12 games. They've had years where O-line's not great, running game, hit or miss, no legit number 2 receiver opposite CeeDee Lamb, defense depends on the Sunday, and they've still won 12 games and been NFC East champions. Schottenheimer seems to know what he's doing as it pertains to play calling. There were some hiccups at points last year, some odd game plans, but by and large, he's going into year 2, more experienced. If Dallas has a passable defense next year, I think I'm picking them over Philly to win the division. I really am. I think the Eagles, by and large, have a generally better roster, and the Eagles are a significantly better run organization than Dallas. But Jerry, again, to his credit, has made the most out of the Micah Parsons trade. And by the way, I wouldn't get your hopes up if you're a Cowboys fan, because Jerry's not known to give big contracts to guys that didn't originate in Dallas. They might bring in Trey Hendrickson. And because of the incompetence of Cincinnati's front office, not give up anything in terms of assets. So you could have Trey Hendrickson and Rashawn Gary rushing the quarterback. You have Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark and Odigizua on the interior. Then you could add to the draft, maybe get like a Caleb Downs to shore up your secondary. You know what you're getting from the offense. Christian Parker, you have to imagine or hope at least that he's an upgrade over Matt Eberflus. Dallas, by no means am I saying they're a contender. I'm not saying, oh my gosh, they're as good as the Rams. Rams are stacked. Chicago's going to be back. Seattle, they're the defending champions. Niners just got Mike Evans. Again, if you told me in March, what is today? March 9th, 2027, Dallas went 11-6, let's be conservative, 11-6, and they beat San Francisco in their first playoff game, lost to Seattle or the Rams in their second. That sounds like realistic expectations to me. So, been hard on Jerry. I think rightfully so. Pretty good moves. Hey, as bad as the Micah trade was, post that, they made some nice moves to their credit. This has got to be an all-defense draft. If they want to add to their offensive line, I think that'd be smart because Dallas is not good in pass protection. Beyond that, all defense. They fix that. Dallas might be a pretty good football team next year. Patrick Brown, who's a big Cowboys fan, my compadre at the grid. The draft is crucial for Dallas. Jerry has delivered on his promise of being aggressive in free agency. Cry, Eagles, cry. You love to see it. Again, man, it's been a bad offseason for Philly. Blankenship gone. Jalen Phillips gone. Jalen Carter may be gone. They might move him. Now, again, Howie Roseman is an elite GM. We know this, but, man, there's an element of, what's going on. Okay, we've got Braxton. This is another free agent move that just happened. Braxton Jones is re-signing with the Chicago Bears, 1-year deal up to $10 million. As it says, this is according to Pro Football Focus. As a starter in 2024, he earned an 80.8 pass blocking grade and a 70.2 run blocking grade. So, and this, it's not been a great offseason for Chicago, at least up front, because they obviously lost Drew Dahlman to retirement, which was, I think, very shocking to a lot of us. He was kind of a big free agent acquisition in the offseason, played extremely well for them last year. So losing him to retirement is certainly a ding, is something that is Chicago going to address center in the draft in the first round. We'll see. There's been some good first round centers in the last half decade. Listen, we're on just the start of this offseason. Trey Hendrickson hasn't signed yet. There's still some quarterbacks. Kyler Murray hasn't signed. Geno Smith hasn't signed. Doesn't it feel like it's kind of in a twisted way kind of meant to be if Geno Smith comes back to the Jets? That just feels, and I've got 3 of my closest friends, Barry Grant Jr., Alfred Parso Jr., and John Rivera, dear friends of mine. Love all 3 of them. It would be a cruel twist of fate if Geno Smith, who was awful to start his career with the Jets, then had a renaissance in Seattle, then was garbage with the Raiders. Vegas released him over the weekend. If he ends up being the guy in New York. Oh, man. Because the reality was they were going to take, what's my man's name? Oh my gosh, the quarterback from Oregon. It's not coming to my brain right off the bat. And see, this is where I have to do a Google search. Who is the Oregon Ducks quarterback? Oregon Ducks QB, because he was going to go second. Dante Moore. That's who it was, Dante Moore. See, I've been talking about Dante Moore much because he pulled out of the draft. Dante Moore was almost certainly going to be the second overall pick this draft, but he's like, I'm not going to the Jets, man. Now, he still may end up with the Jets. We'll see. But I'm not going this year, at least. So New York, to their credit, I think they made some smart moves and addressed the defense. Aaron Glenn's like, hey, I'm a defensive guy. I'm going to, if I go down, it's going to be because I didn't do my job on my side of the ball. And by the way, you see Tennessee kind of doing similar things. Now, Salah's in his first year, former Jets head coach. Salah's in his first year with the Titans, but they're investing in the defensive side of the football. Wan'Dale Robinson, they added him to give a weapon to Cam Ward. So Tennessee's a team that I think could make maybe not a ton of noise in the division because Jacksonville and Houston are on a different track than they are. But the way Cam Ward played at the end of last year, like you do see guys at times kind of slow. Like Drake May was pretty good at the last quarter of his rookie season. Year 2, he was an MVP finalist. So I could potentially see that track for a guy like Cam Ward. I think the staff in Tennessee is really, really solid. When you got Salah running the defense and Dable running the offense, that's pretty good. Let's shift to the NBA. And again, of course, if there's any NFL free agent news that breaks in between now and the end of the show, of course, we'll bring it to you live on Carving It Up. But our one NBA story is a feel-good one. So Jayson Tatum, 10 months removed from a devastating Achilles injury, Game 4, second round against the Knicks last year. He was playing his best game of the playoffs. Probably his best playoff game since Game 6 in 2022 when they staved off elimination against the, at the time, defending champion Bucks. I think he dropped 46 in that game, and they went on to lose to my Warriors in the finals. Balling out. Blows his Achilles with about 3 minutes to go in the game. And it was, I think, accepted by most, including myself, as common knowledge. Well, okay, Tatum's gone for next year, so the Celtics are out of the championship mix. Well, now he's back. He played a couple of games, played Friday night against Dallas, and then Sunday afternoon against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And for his first 2 games, not bad. Not terribly efficient, but again, some of it's getting his legs underneath him. He averaged about 17.5 a game, 7.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists. Again, shooting split's not great. 37, 29, 85. Those will improve over time. Averaging about 27 minutes per game. Obviously, Joe Mazzulla. There was the report before, I think it was from Shams, going into his first game against Dallas on Friday night in Boston that, okay, no minutes restriction. Well, 27 minutes for a guy 10 months removed from Achilles surgery, like, they're going to play this safe. Mazzulla, listen, he's a different cat. Like, we know this. He had a quote. I don't know if he was copying Kyle Shanahan because Shanahan had a very similar quote. But when the media was asking him, hey, is Tatum probable for the game tomorrow against the Mavs? He's like, I don't know if I'm probable to wake up tomorrow. I mean, he's a different cat. Beats to his own drum. And he's been very successful in Boston, to his credit. The Celtics are clearly contenders in the Eastern Conference, especially given that they're in the East. I still maintain, and I think the Eastern playoffs are actually going to be really fun to watch this year for a number of reasons. Like, even the teams that I don't consider contenders, Miami, Philadelphia, they could play spoiler. They absolutely could. The way Maxi's playing, if Embiid is able to be healthy, yeah, Philly could win a playoff series. Miami's playing good basketball as of late. I mean, how great Spoelstra is. Maybe it's just because of the long drought, the consistent playoff disappointments over the course of a half century. I don't know what it is. But you can tell, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but you can tell by how the media has covered the NBA over the last 96 hours, who they really don't view as a tier 1 contender in the East. So Tatum's back for Boston. Man, Celtics went to the finals in 22, won it in dominant fashion in 24. Like, they're a serious contender. By the way, they absolutely are. When Jaylen Brown was playing the way that he was playing without Tatum dealing with double teams, now Tatum back, you've got Derek White and Pritchard and Vucevic. Like, that's absolutely a championship contender in the East. And we said as much on contender or pretender on our segment a couple of weeks ago. But when you have that, like, oh man, Boston's scary. They are. And then, oh man, Detroit, they've lost, 4 games in a row. I mean, are the Pistons okay? No word about the Knicks. I don't know. Did the Knicks on Friday night, like, not just clobber the Denver Nuggets in Denver? Yeah, I get it. They lost to the Lakers yesterday without LeBron. Some of that is the Lakers, from a fit perspective, are actually, the numbers say it, our Windhorse talked about this, better without LeBron James if it's Luka and Austin Reeves. They went into Denver the other night and absolutely mollywopped the Nuggets. Now, Denver's a terrible defensive team, and that's going to do them in the playoffs, but that's something. We know about Denver's home court, not just because of the altitude, but that's a legitimately loud fan base. You got Jokic, Jamal Murray. All their guys were there. New York went on the road and crushed them. But we're talking about, oh, man, Tatum's back, and the Pistons are on a 4-game losing streak. What's up with them? There's also this, even when the Cavs lost yesterday, oh, man, can we trust James Harden in the playoffs? Number one, no. Second of all, so we're just not paying attention to the Knicks now. Listen, some of it's my bias because I picked them to win the East before the season, and I am absolutely sticking to that. And it's also an element of, wait a second. The two teams that people say are better than them, Detroit and Boston, they beat them last year. Now, you can say, okay, Detroit was a year younger. Okay, fine. But the Pistons, as great as Cade has been, legitimate MVP finalist, or he's going to be, he hasn't won a playoff series yet. And Detroit, great defensive team. Outside of Cade, is there anyone you really trust in the offensive end? And Boston, you can make a case this Celtics team might be a smidgen better than last year just from a fit perspective, and because guys like Derek White and Pritchard Hauser have kind of taken a step. The Boston Celtics lost 2 games at home to New York. In part, people talk about, the Celtics choked. To a degree, yes, but also the Knicks are a much better clutch team than the Celtics. We know this. We trust Jalen Brunson more late than we do Tatum. Fair? I think that's a fair assessment to make. Brunson was the clutch player of the year last season. And at the time Tatum went down, playing the game of his life, the Knicks were up 7 points with 3 minutes to go in the game. Now, certainly not insurmountable, but if I remember correctly, I think the Knicks were shooting 60-something% in the fourth quarter. They couldn't miss. Bridges, Brunson, could not miss. So it's highly likely the Knicks would have won Game 4, even if Tatum never goes down, and I don't think Boston comes back from 3-1 in that series. So I just find it a little disrespectful to New York in the sense that, okay, we're paying attention to the fact that Detroit is on a losing streak and kind of having their first really rough patch of the season. We're paying attention to Boston, by the way, as we should. First of all, great for Jayson Tatum. I'll be honest, watching the first few minutes of that game against Dallas, yeah, of course you expect him to get off to a bit of a rusty start, but you're kind of like, man, it's only been 10 months, it's an Achilles. There's a stigma that comes with that about, man, are you going to be the same athlete, same explosive guy? He looked athletically pretty comfortable. So once he gets a shot underneath him, he'll be fine. I don't expect him to be prime Jayson Tatum really the rest of this year. I expect that to come next season once he gets a full offseason and not having to rehab. I just watch all this coverage. It's weird to make a Jayson Tatum coming back segment into a Knicks segment. I'm a little offended, not going to lie. But I will say, because, again, as y'all remember, I said before this season started, if the Golden State Warriors are healthy, I'm picking them to win the championship. Well, Jimmy blew his ACL in January, and Steph has been out since January. Steph's going to come back, it looks like, but obviously the Warriors can't win the West, especially, certainly not without Jimmy. And so because of that, gave me the caveat to change my pick, which I did, to San Antonio. Did you see what San Antonio did to the Houston Rockets last night? Now, I'm not high on Houston. I was out on Houston the second Van Vliet went down in the offseason. And when Steven Adams got hurt, it's like, there's some size that's gone. I'm telling you, I am as confident now as I've been all regular season. We're getting a Knicks and Spurs finals. We are getting a Knicks and Spurs finals. And it'd be a rematch of 1999, which was the first championship San Antonio won. The last time the Knicks have been to a final, so a little bit of a kind of revenge factor. I'm sure some of the 99 Knicks guys will be there, but I think that's what we're getting. And that'll be great for the NBA. You get the historically great over the last quarter century organization in San Antonio. They do everything right. Class first organization. Then you get the Knicks, big brand, Madison Square Garden. Oh my gosh. Be great stuff to watch. All right, we're going to take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to do our episode 6 review. This is going to be an every Monday thing over the course of the next few weeks, really for every Monday, the rest of March. A reaction to episode 6 of FX's Love Story. John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. Reaction to that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So it doesn't look like we've gotten any free agent signings that have broken in the last, couple minutes. Wait, what? Hold on. Jimmy Butler Muse just tweeted that Steph Curry's back. Is he? Sorry, this is totally off script. I was scrolling Twitter. I wasn't sure. Is Steph back? What do we got? Okay, so nothing. Never mind. So Jimmy Butler Muse looks like it's clickbait. I do know Steph is the most recent report was that he would be reevaluated after 5 games. That 5 games is up after tomorrow night. The Warriors are on a back-to-back. They play the Jazz tonight, Bulls tomorrow night, and then Steph will be reevaluated. I really hope, and I hate they'll have to split screen this. I hope Steph is back by next Sunday night at Madison Square Garden against the Knicks, because that is Steph's home away from home. He was drafted in that building. He had his breakout game in that building. He broke the 3-point record in that building. Okay. Never mind. Spoke too soon about free agent signings. The Steelers have made a move. The Pittsburgh Steelers, according to Jordan Schultz, are signing Rico Dowdle, running back from the Carolina Panthers. Listen, Rico was the bell cow back in Carolina last season. Had some big games. I like this. So what this does basically, I like what Mike McCarthy and Omar Khan are doing right now. So what this does essentially is Jaylen Warren's kind of like your speed, twitchy back, and Rico Dowdle is your bruiser. You're in between the tackles guy, which Jaylen Warren doesn't necessarily specialize in. Jaylen Warren's an off tackle guy. What's the contract details look like? What do we have? Sorry, again, another off-script moment, but this is what happens when you do a live free agent show. So Rico Dowdle to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I love this move. Rico Dowdle, Michael Pittman. Here you go. All right, so Rico Dowdle, Michael Pittman. You add Jamel Dean in free agency. Listen, man, I'm liking what the Steelers are doing. I am starting to like the Mike McCarthy regime. I just implore McCarthy and Omar Khan and the Rooney family, the entire Steelers organization. You're the 6-time Super Bowl champions. You're making some really smart moves in free agency and trades, and your team kind of makes sense now. And don't cave to a 42-year-old, well past his prime quarterback who's not that interested in, being there consistently for the guys in that locker room, who's going to blame somebody if something goes wrong. McCarthy, Metcalf, he'll probably blame Michael Pittman. I don't want Aaron Rodgers to throw a single pass to Michael Pittman Jr. I don't want him to throw another pass to DK Metcalf. Let's see what Will Howard has. If you want to bring in a vet, do that. Sure, start the vet, 5 games, start Will Howard the rest of the year, see what the kid has. If he doesn't have it, you draft somebody next year. The path is there. Do not cave to him. I'm begging you. The Malik Willis, that ship has sailed. So he's going to Miami. So the Malik Willis thing, that's off the table. Let's see what Will Howard has. You can't do that if you bring back Aaron Rodgers. I'm begging you. Don't cave to him. You've had a really good offseason thus far. And by the way, we had this graphic ready to go. Got a lot of draft picks this year. First rounder, second rounder. You have 3 third-round picks and 2 fourth-rounders. You have obviously your third-round pick, the third-round pick from Dallas from the George Pickens trade, and then a compensatory third-round pick because you lost Dan Moore to the Titans last year in free agency. A 5th rounder, 3 6th-rounders, and 2 7th-rounders. Like, Steelers are in good shape to kind of build a new sort of offensive culture, which I've been begging them to do for years. I'm liking the McCarthy regime a little bit thus far. I'm liking it. Rico Dowdle, love that move. Do we have any details on the contract? Or there's still nothing. Schefter hasn't reported anything. Jordan Schultz, but Rico Dowdle is headed to my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. I love this. It doesn't look like though. That there's any sort of details in the contract. We'll probably get that tonight. All right. So, like this move for the Steelers. Okay, so we've been doing this. We did it the last couple of shows. And from here on out, because we've gotten the first 5 episodes out of the way, every Monday on the rest of this month, basically, we're reacting to the latest episode of FX's Love Story, John F. Kennedy Jr. and Carolyn Bessette. It is currently the #1 show on Disney+. I think it's the most watched Hulu, I don't know if I'm reading this right, the most watched Hulu through Disney Plus show ever. So that's something people are clearly fascinating in the story, as they understandably are, or should be. So let's get into episode 6. So again, we said this the last couple of reactions, all spoilers. So if you haven't watched the episode and you don't want any of my input, you don't want any spoilers, turn the show off, okay? Watch episode 6 and then come back once the full clip is uploaded on YouTube, probably by tomorrow night or Wednesday. So here we go. So episode 6. So we come off of episode 5 where John and Carolyn had the infamous Battery Park fight where they're going at each other. You know, he takes the ring off. She's jumping on his back. It's a big physical altercation, really. And then by the end of the episode, they officially get engaged. They're going to be married. And so episode 6, and we knew this going in, is going to be focused on the wedding. So there's the initial reaction from the Kennedy clan, the Kennedy family, about the public nature of the fight. Of course, it was caught in real life. It was caught on tape, tabloids, all of it. And the first scene is Ethel Kennedy, who was the late Bobby Kennedy's wife. And she brings Carolyn in for like a meeting. And you're thinking, oh boy, based on the last interaction these two had, this should be interesting. And rather than like scolding her or whatever, she kind of like gives her a kind of like a reassuring talk, but also a know what you're signing up for in as empathetic a way as I can tell you, way. So there's a line where she says, talking about the Kennedy men, they'll drive you crazy. They'll make you want to scream. Don't. The whole world will be watching you. It's your choice what you'll want them to see. And I did Google after episode 5 when John and Carolyn visited Hyannisport. And there was a very awkward interaction between Carolyn Bessette and Ethel Kennedy. I did Google, like, okay, did that happen in real life? Or because it is a drama, some of the events on the show is fictionalized for dramatic effect. And I did read that Ethel actually became very close and almost kind of like a mentor to Carolyn over time. And I think you sort of saw this in the scene, which was cool to see. Then you cut to John, who's meeting with the late Senator Ted Kennedy and his sister Caroline. And they're just livid about like, oh my gosh, this is public now. This fight between you and your girlfriend. And John cuts in, says, she's not my girlfriend. And I think it was Caroline who said, oh, you broke up? And he said, no, she's my fiance. And Ted like walks out of the room. Caroline's pissed. And so the episode doesn't get off to a great start as it relates to how John's family feels about him. So what we go to next. So you've got John and Carolyn kind of by themselves in their apartment. They're planning the wedding, passing the cigarette back and forth, like just trying to go over the emotional aspect of her marrying into this family and even for him to a certain degree, and also while planning. And there's a funny scene where she's like, no bouquet toss, no disposable cameras every table, no parties favors, no bridal shower, no father-daughter dance. In fact, I don't even want my father there. It's been well established at this point. She is not very close with her father. She's more close with her mother and her stepfather. And she says, no brunch. And there's this, moment where she wants it to be private, away from the media. And John's like, well, I know of a place, Cumberland Island in Georgia, where I think he had been with an ex, and she was like rattling off his numerous exes, trying to guess which one it was. And there was a funny scene where they're kind of like dancing, and it's nice to see kind of the lighter side of the relationship, especially fresh off of their big fight in Battery Park. So now we go to a dinner of the couple with Caroline Kennedy and Ed Schlossberg, her husband. And I thought Ed Schlossberg was kind of the needed comic relief throughout this entire episode, where he's playing the third wheel and the awkward dynamic between John and Caroline, and the very tense dynamic between Caroline and Carolyn. And there's this dispute over where the wedding should be, and Caroline's really getting on her brother, like, oh, so you don't want to have a Kennedy wedding. I think there were about 500 people that attended hers, to Ed Schlossberg in the late 80s. Like, so you don't want the traditional big pomp and circumstance Kennedy wedding. And she has a line, it's a tense moment, where she says, you're lucky, Mummy. That's what they called their mother, Jackie. You're lucky Mummy's not here to see this. And John says, you mean I'm too lucky? You mean I'm lucky Mummy's too dead to come to my wedding? And it's like this, ooh, I think John takes the cake on this one. It's this kind of awkward moment at the table. And so this gets Carolyn thinking, like, man, his sister really doesn't like me. How can I make it up to her and include her in a way that, I got it. I'll make her my matron of honor. And it's kind of a sad scene. Her and her sister are like working out, and she tells her sister, Carolyn tells her sister Lauren, that she wants to name Caroline as her matron of honor. And it obviously crushes Lauren, who says something along the lines of, it won't really mean anything to her. It would have meant everything to me. And it's kind of this like, oh God, that's just, it sucks. You feel awful for Lauren in that moment. And so then she tells Caroline that she's going to be the matron of honor, or she wants her to be the matron of honor. Her rationale was, obviously neither of his parents are here to see this. He sees them and you. So I want them to be on stage with us when, we're saying our vows at the wedding. It's a really touching moment. So up next, what else happened? What do we have next? Oh yeah. So then Carolyn quits Calvin Klein because she feels like the attention and all of this, there's already been kind of rumors that they are engaged, that they're going to get married. At this point, it's gotten to a stage where her very presence, and it's sad, her very presence at the company overshadows everything, creates a media spectacle. And Calvin Klein has a line, something along the lines of, I've never been dumped professionally, and you just did. And he had on the show, we don't know if this happened in real life, but on the show, he had introduced the couple. In fact, there's a scene where he opens the drawer after she left the room, showing the plans of the wedding dress that he would have had for her. And so he's crushed. You kind of get his perspective. He doesn't take it well, again, understandably so. And so we cut to now they're on Cumberland Island. So this is like the day before the wedding. And Carolyn's mother, Anne Marie Messina, is expressing her concerns about this, about how, hey, you've sacrificed a lot. You just gave up your job. You left your apartment. You've sacrificed your privacy. You've sacrificed a lot for this guy. What has he sacrificed for you? And that bleeds into the rehearsal dinner, where there's some kind of lighthearted moments. Ed Schlossberg has the politics and fashion equals passion. He had like this lighthearted poem. And then her mother speaks, Anne Marie Messina, Carolyn Bessette's mother. And I guess as nicely as she could, expressed her reservations by drawing on a Carolyn Bessette childhood anecdote about how she was, and this is true, I've actually been reading the book that the show is based on. She was the type of person that would stick up for the kids that were bullied, who would go so far as to ditch her friends in the school bus to hang out with the kid that maybe has had a rough day. And her mother says, I hope you will be that for her, referring to John, and then she leaves. It's like sort of this awkward, like, oh boy, we're 24 hours out, and we're not sure the bride's mother's terribly cool with this. And John goes in there and kind of reassures her, like, I'm always going to be there for your daughter and whatever, and she's everything to me. And it's kind of the sad moment where she kind of touches his hand, and she says, I know you believe that. Like, I don't think this is going to work. And there's a very, I'll be honest, kind of chilling moment right after this, where John meets Carolyn like on the pier, and they're kind of looking out at the ocean, and they're both expressing very different viewpoints about what the ocean represents. And she's like, God, it's just this endless bound of water. It's kind of terrifying. And he says, I actually think there's a comfort in it. There's a certainty. Like it's always been there. It's always going to be there. And of course, we know how their lives tragically end in the ocean. And so I thought that was an interesting creative choice by Ryan Murphy to include that scene. And so you cut to the next day, wedding day, and the iconic dress that Carolyn Bessette wore was designed by, I think, Narciso Rodriguez, who's dealing with some technical issues, some logistics with, okay, is this going to work? And she ends up being like 2 hours late for the wedding. JFK Jr. is himself quite late to the wedding. It's at this just remote location. I believe it was the first African church in the United States. I think I read that it was founded in like 1893 or something. And so there's no electricity, no lights, no nothing. And just seeing the lengths that this family, really the two families, went through, but particularly the Kennedys, to avoid media attention, to avoid this being a huge spectacle. The image of, because they're driving on like dirt roads, the image of Ethel Kennedy in the back of a pickup truck, off-roading it to this remote wedding was one of my favorite images from the entire episode. It was just completely contradicts how you view her, how you view the whole Kennedy family as like this aristocratic, almost royal family in the United States, and see them drive down these dirt roads to the wedding was a cool sight. So again, Carolyn ends up making it to the wedding. It's gotten dark at this point, so it's a candlelit wedding processional, and it's just absolutely stunning. They get married. It's an emotional ceremony. There's the moment after where John and Carolyn are having their wedding dance, and everybody is in a good mood and all of it. And there just seemed to be this and the pier scene the night before. It's kind of the first time you think it's all going downhill from here. It really, really is. And based on some of the reports I've seen from those who have seen episode 7, it does start to go downhill from there. But as far as the episode in and of itself, I thought it was, by all accounts, by people who knew these two, by people who are familiar with the buildup and the commencement of their wedding, seemed to be pretty accurate, seemed to be pretty not loose with the facts, even to the point where after John and Carolyn are married, when the iconic photo of them walking out of the church and he kisses her hand as they're walking down the steps, which was on People magazine all over America. It's probably one of the most iconic wedding photos in American history, if not the most. And so I thought it was brilliantly done. I thought the fun moments between John and Carolyn, especially early in the episode, were exciting to see. It was really cool. It was really, really great stuff. And again, there is this sort of, and I think Anne-Marie Messina, her mother, kind of represents this in the episode, that it's all going to go downhill from here. It's the classic tragic love story. Unfortunately, it's true. But thus far, through 6 episodes, I think it's an absolutely fantastic show. And I know there's been a lot of, then we'll get out of here. I know there's been a lot of buzz. And I mentioned, you can go back and watch, I mentioned it in my episode 1 through 3 reaction, that Daryl Hannah, who was with JFK Jr. prior to his relationship with Carolyn Bessette, has come out and said, just been really, really angry, understandably so, about her portrayal on the show, because it doesn't exactly paint her in glory. And I think Constance Zimmer, who played Anne-Marie Messina, put on her Instagram, and I don't know if this was a dig at Daryl Hannah or anything, she says something like, remember, this is a drama, not a documentary. Take that for what you will. I'll be honest, I do feel bad for Daryl Hannah and for the people that maybe aren't presented the greatest on this show. But I'll be honest, from an entertainment perspective, and as far as the key, really important details, they do get those right. And again, just the one-on-one dynamics to me are the most interesting in the show. But as far as episode 6, between Carolyn and Lauren, with her telling her that, hey, you're not going to be the matron of honor, is going to be my future sister-in-law, Caroline. And then later on, as she's waiting for her wedding dress to get finished, she asks her sister, hey, are you still mad at me? And she's like, yeah, I am. And the one-on-ones between John and Carolyn early on, kind of the fun, lighthearted, and then the very intimate aspects of their wedding at the end of the show, or the end of the episode. The interactions between John and Anne-Marie Messina, the interaction between Carolyn and Anne-Marie Messina, who's kind of the central character of this episode. I think from a one-on-one acting perspective, it's probably the best episode thus far. And so, thus far through 6, I've loved it. Clearly, the viewers have loved it. It's the #1 show on Disney Plus right now. And so episode 7 comes out this Thursday. We'll react to that next Monday. Episode 7 reaction next Monday show. The full clip of this will be on the YouTube channel, so feel free to check it out once it's out there. But yes, very, very good stuff. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by as always. Before we get out of here, I just want to say this and put up my prediction. Give me tonight the ETSU Buccaneers over Furman, 81-77. Take ETSU minus, well, you can't really take them now. The game's already started. In the Southern Conference Men's Basketball Championship game, ETSU trying to get the job done, trying to put themselves in position to get to March Madness. I'm repping my Bucks. I'm very excited. Let's hope by the end of the night that ETSU will be in the NCAA tournament. They have not made it since I've started attending the school, so I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm very nervous, but I think the Bucks get the job done. They've been the second half team of the year all season long. So fingers crossed that remains the case. Go Bucks, baby. So we hope you guys have a great rest of your week. We will see you guys on Wednesday. I'm sure there'll be some more free agent stuff. Our first mock draft of 2026 will be on the show on Wednesday. Very excited for that. Some surprises here and there. And overall, just generally some great sports content that's going to come over the course of the next few weeks. This is March. March Madness is coming. Free agency's on fire. Draft is getting hotter and hotter as time goes on. NBA's got a month left to see. World Baseball Classic, just unbelievable stuff. We will see you guys on Wednesday, though. 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific time. Have a great week. We'll see you on Wednesday. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Steelers, don't screw this up. I like what you're doing. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.